educate yourselves. Schools and courses, books and newspapers are the means to freedom.
Throughout middle and high school, I was one of those who hated history class. History education in Turkey is propaganda based on instilling national values in children. This is why I met Eric Hobsbawm at an early age. Thanks to Hobsbawm, I became interested in history. I realized that another history was not equipped with superheroes and didn't produce idols. Eric Hobsbawm, whom I started reading in high school, is the person who made me love history again.
I've seen them come and I've seen them go. In the course of my lifetime, all the old colonial empires went. The one empire which offered to last 1,000 years lasted a good deal shorter.
You're talking about the Soviet Union?
I'm talking of the Soviet Union or world communism. So I don't give too much for the long life of anybody declaring themselves a world empire. It'll last my time, but probably it won't last as long as some of the people that are going to read my books.
Hobsbawm, one of the names who developed the Marxist understanding of economic history, was born in Alexandria, Egypt in 1917. It must be one of the most meaningful cities for a historian to be born in. He studied at the universities of Vienna, Berlin, London, and Cambridge. He was in Berlin during Hitler's march to power and worked with the socialists there. He was among the intellectuals who resisted fascism. Between 1949 and 1955, he was a lecturer at King's College, Cambridge. He was often invited as a visiting professor at Stanford University in the United States of America. He frequently traveled to Latin America and the Mediterranean and saw many cities. He began his historical studies in the historians group of the British Communist Party. After 1956, he continued his work in the History Workshop, which replaced this group. He published articles opposing the view that history is not amenable to generalizations. He authored giant works such as Laboring Man, Industry and Empire. He dealt with the quantitative and qualitative dimensions of social life, everyday life, and the place of the ordinary person in history. He emphasized the history of labor and workers more than heroes or states. In his book Primitive Rebels, he wrote the history of the revolts of people in Spain and Latin America who were relatively outside the Industrial Revolution. He analyzed social movements. He broke with the nation-statist view of historical events and repeated time and again that it produces a myth. Hobsbawm approached historical events from an international perspective. This is very evident in his book, The Age of Revolution. He describes the origins of the Industrial Revolution in Western Europe and its spread worldwide. According to Hobsbawm, human history can only be understood with a Marxist perspective.
According to the Marxist understanding of history, history cannot be read without understanding the mode and techniques of production, the dominant structures that own the means of production, the rent and raw material conflicts of the bourgeoisie, technological organizations, the actual profit motives of technical changes, and the states ruled by profit centers.
History cannot be read without understanding the modes of production between people, the conflicts of the bourgeoisie over rent and raw materials, the changes in industry and technique, and the reflection of the main purpose of technical change on the superstructure. Hobsbawm researched the historical change in societies with understanding of economic history and explained this change in a multidisciplinary manner. In many of his works, he reiterated the importance of understanding the internal contradictions, theses, antitheses, situations, and conflicting forces that change societies. His words in his book, The Short 20th Century, summarize his perspective on history.
Without this economic crisis, there would certainly have been no Hitler. There would almost certainly have been no Roosevelt. The Soviet system would probably not have been seen as a serious economic competitor and an alternative to world capitalism. The consequences of the economic crisis outside of Europe and the Western world were dramatic enough for everyone to see. In short, the world relations of the second half of the 20th century cannot be understood unless the effects of the economic collapses are understood.
Thanks for watching. See you in another video.